In the bustling city of Enugu, Chief Odo was a respected businessman known throughout the eastern part of Nigeria. His large compound in GRA stood as a testimony of his wealth. The compound had tall walls, a big gate, and flower gardens that stretched around the main building. Chief Odo had 3 sons and a daughter, but few people knew about the daughter. On the day Ilia was born, the hospital corridor was quiet. Unlike the celebrations that happened when his sons were born, Chief Odo sat alone on a bench, his face dark with disappointment. "The girl?" he mumbled to himself, shaking his head. When the nurse came to tell him he could see his wife and new baby, Chief Odo stood up quickly. "Tell my driver to take my wife home when she's ready. I have business to attend to," he said as he walked away without looking back. Inside the hospital room, she cradled her newborn daughter with tears streaming down her face. These were not tears of joy but of fear and sadness. She knew what this meant. Her husband had made it clear he wanted only sons. She looked down at her baby girl. The baby was beautiful with bright eyes that seemed to sparkle, but instead of feeling love, she felt resentment growing in her heart. This child had cost her husband's affection. When she brought Ilia home, there were no celebrations, no visitors bearing gifts, no traditional naming ceremony as there had been for Ike, Oja, and Ugo. Chief Odo did not even come to see the baby for days. When he finally appeared in Chi's bedroom, his words were cold. "I don't want to see this child around the house. Find someone to take care of her away from the main building." "But Chief, why are you behaving like this? Ilia is your daughter." Chief Odo's eyes flashed with anger. "Did you not hear me? I said I don't want to see her anywhere around my house." The next day, a young woman named Ne arrived at the compound. She was only 18, but had eyes that showed kindness and warmth. Chi barely looked at her. "Take her to the guest quarters at the back of the compound. Everything you need is there, but make sure she doesn't disturb anyone in the main house." Ne's eyes widened with surprise, but she said nothing as she gently picked up baby Ilia and carried her away. As the years passed, Ilia grew from a baby to a toddler to a young girl, but the walls of the guest quarters remained her boundaries. She only knew her mother from the rare cold visits she made, usually to check if Ne was doing her job properly. By the time Ilia was 5, she understood that she was different from other children. She had seen enough television to know that families usually live together, that mothers hug their daughters, and that fathers played with their children. One evening, as Ne braided Ilia's hair, the little girl asked, "Manny, why does mommy hate me and is always away?" Ne's hand stopped moving for a moment. Ilia had taken to calling her Nanny Manny, a mix of mommy and nanny, because Ne was the only mother figure she really knew. Ne paused and replied, "I'm so sorry, my dear. Your mama is very busy, and sometimes grown-ups have problems that have nothing to do with you." She pulled Ilia into a tight hug. "I'll tell you a story, okay?" Ilia nodded against Ne's chest. When Ilia turned 5, Ne approached Chi about sending the girl to school. "Please, ma," Ne said, standing nervously in Chi's bedroom. "Ilia is 5 now. She should start school like other children." Chi barely looked up from her magazine. "Chief says no. He doesn't want anyone to know about her. Neither does he care about her development." "But madam, what about her future? Every child needs education." Chi finally put down her magazine and fixed Ne with a cold stare. "Are you questioning my husband's decisions? If you care so much, why not teach her yourself?" "Please, ma, I cannot. Allow me to hire a private teacher. No one will know she's your daughter. The teacher will come to the quarters and teach her secretly without Chief's knowledge." Chi looked at Ne for a long moment, then waved her hand dismissively. Do whatever you want, but remember, that child is not to be seen or heard in this main house." The tutor, Mr. Obi, was a young university graduate who needed the money. He came 3 times a week to teach Ilia. From the first day, Mr. Obi noticed something unusual about his new student. "Ilia, please, can we put away the snacks while we learn?" he asked gently, eyeing the pile of biscuits and sweets on the table. Ilia clutched her packet of biscuits tighter. "No, please, I need to eat while I study." Mr. Obi was puzzled but let it go. As the lessons progressed, he noticed that Ilia always had food with her. If he tried to take it away, she would become anxious and unable to concentrate. The next day, when Mr. Obi arrived for the lesson, Ne met him at the door with an apologetic look. "I'm very sorry, Teacher Obi. Ilia can't have a lesson today. She's not feeling well." Ha, what happened? Nne lowered her voice. She couldn't sleep last night. She was crying for food. When I refused to give her more, she became ill. The doctor says it's anxiety. By the time Ilia was 16, she had become fatter and bigger. While Ilia's education progressed in secret, her isolation deepened. The only time she left her quarters was for occasional shopping trips with Nne to buy things she didn't need. She had no idea what to do with her life. Her idea about life and the world was informed by watching movies, social media, and whatever her nanny or private tutor tells her. She had no friends or any human relations. Ilia's room had a window that faced the neighboring compound, with a family that had their breakfast and dinner beside their pool. Ilia would rush to her window at these times, watching them like a favorite TV show. She would stand there, munching on chips or sweets, imagining herself as part of their family. One evening, as Ilia stood by her window, Mrs. Adeyemi looked up and spotted her. Instead of being annoyed at being watched, the woman smiled warmly and waved at Ilia. Ilia gasped and bent down immediately, her heart racing. She immediately remembered her mother's warning from years ago. It had happened when Ilia was 8. Curious about the sounds of laughter coming from the main house, she had wandered out of her quarters into the sitting room where her mother was entertaining guests. "Mother!" Ilia had called out happily, running toward Chi. The room felt silent. Chi's smile froze on her face. The guests looked from Chi to the fat little girl in confusion. "Chi, I didn't know you had a daughter," one of the women said. Chi laughed nervously. "Oh, this is my niece. She's staying with us for a while," she lied. After the guests left, Chi had dragged Ilia back to her quarters, her fingers digging painfully into the girl's arm. "Don't you ever come to the main house again. Don't you let anyone see you. Do you understand?" Ilia had nodded, tears streaming down her face. Those words had burned themselves into Ilia's heart. From that day on, she had obeyed, staying hidden, becoming the ghost child of Chief Odo's compound. Whenever Nne was not around, loneliness would consume her, and she would turn to the one friend that never abandoned her: food. Her closets were filled not just with clothes, but with snacks of all kinds. When sadness overwhelmed her, she would sit on the floor, surrounded by wrappers and packets of snacks, eating until the pain dulled enough for her to sleep. One day, as Ilia was finishing her lesson with Mr. Obi, she heard unusual sounds coming from the main house: music, laughter, the hustle of many people. "What's happening?" she asked Nne. Nne looked uncomfortable. It's your father's 50th birthday celebration. They are preparing for a big party tonight." Ilia's eyes lit up. "A party? Can I go?" Nne's face fell. "I'm so sorry, Ilia. Your parents specifically told me not to bring you." Ilia's excitement crumbled into familiar disappointment. "Of course," she mumbled as she sat on her bed. Nne couldn't bear to see the hurt in Ilia's eyes. All right, listen," she whispered. "I have an idea. By 7 p.m. it will be dark and everyone will be busy. I could sneak you in for a little while, just to watch from a corner." Ilia's face brightened again. At 7 p.m., Nne helped Ilia dress into a beautiful blue gown. "You look beautiful," Nne said sincerely. "But remember, we just go, watch from a distance, and then come back. Don't talk to anyone, okay?" Ilia nodded eagerly, her heart pounding with excitement. They slipped out of the quarters and made their way to the main house. The sounds of music and laughter grew louder as they approached. Ilia had not been in the main house for 10 years, and it felt strange and unfamiliar to her now. Nne led her to a quiet corner behind some large potted plants. From there, they could see the party in full swing. The garden was lit with colorful lights, tables were laden with food, and people in fine clothes mingled and danced. "Stay here, okay?" Nne whispered. "I need to go help in the kitchen for a few minutes." Ilia nodded while she kept watching. As she watched, Ilia saw something that made her heart stop. The Adeyemi family, her window family, was arriving. Chief Odo and Chi, his wife, rushed to greet them with wide smiles. Chi hugged the children warmly and complimented them loudly. "Your children are so beautiful. Oh, look how lovely they are," Chi said, loud enough for Ilia to hear. Ilia felt a sharp pain in her chest. She had never heard her mother speak so warmly to her. She had never received the hug from her mother either, like those children had just received. The pain quickly turned into a familiar emptiness, and with it came the overwhelming urge to eat. Without thinking, Ilia left her hiding place and headed straight for the buffet table. She grabbed the plate and began piling it high with jollof rice, fried chicken, moi moi and everything else she could reach. She was stuffing fried meat into her mouth when one of the ushers approached her. "Excuse me, miss. The food is being served in order. Please wait for your table to be called." Ilia ignored him and continued to eat quickly. The usher tried to take her plate away, but Ilia resisted, causing a small commotion. "What's going on here?" a sharp voice demanded. Ilia looked up to see her mother standing there, her face a mask of shock and anger. Behind her stood Chief Odo, his eyes wide with disbelief. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Chief Odo turned on his heel and walked away in anger. She recovered quickly and backed. "And you, young lady, who invited you here?" Before Ilia could respond, she turned to two security men. "Take her out of here." The men grabbed Ilia's arms and dragged her away. She stumbled inside, collapsing onto her bed in tears. Hours later, when Nne finally returned, she found Ilia surrounded by empty food wrappers, her eyes swollen from crying. "I'm so sorry, Ilia," Nne said, gathering the girl into her arms. "I should never have left you alone. This is all my fault." Ilia clung to Nne, her body shaking with sobs. "They hate me, Manny. They really hate me." "No, my child," Nne whispered. "They just don't understand you yet." The next morning, Ilia was awakened by the sound of a sharp slap. She crept to her door and peeped out to see her mother standing over Nne, who was holding her cheek. "How dare you bring that girl to the party? Do you know how embarrassed we were? Chief almost had a heart attack." "Madam, please," Nne pleaded. "Ilia just wanted to be part of the family celebration. She was hurt. And besides, she's your daughter." "Don't you dare tell me who she is," she snapped. "Now you will go in there, pack your trash and leave my house this minute." Nne returned to the bedroom, tears streaming down her face. Ilia rushed to her. "Manny, what happened? Why are you crying?" Nne tried to smile through her tears as she began pulling clothes from the closet. "I have to leave, Ilia. Your mother has fired me." Ilia's world crumbled around her. No, Manny, you can't leave me. I will die if you leave me." Nne hugged Ilia tightly. "I will see what I can do, okay? 20 minutes later, she returned, her face glowing with excitement. "Good news, Ilia. Pack your things. We're leaving together." Ilia stared at her in confusion. "What? How?" "I spoke to your parents. I told them that I would take you to live with me. That way, they won't have to deal with the shame of having you here. And to my surprise, they agreed." "When do we leave?" Ilia asked, smiling. "As soon as we're done packing. My cousin has a small house in Asaba. We'll go there first, then figure out what next to do." As they packed, Ilia looked around the room that had been her prison for 16 years. She felt no sadness about leaving it behind. Nne was 18 when she became Ilia's nanny, and I've come to love Ilia as her own. Nne was not married, and she had no sibling or parents either, so Ilia became her family. With Nne's help, Ilia worked hard to become more fit. Nne promised her that if she became fit, she would go to college. With this in mind, Ilia started eating healthy. A few months after, Ilia was so happy with the lady she's become. They took walks together, cooked nutritious meals, and talked. True to her word, when Ilia had become fit enough to feel comfortable around others, Nne enrolled her for exams into the university. Then one evening, Nne came home with news. "I'm getting married," Nne said happily. "But he lives in America and wants me to go with him," Nne continued. Ilia's smile faded. "Oh, but I want you to come with us," Nne said quickly. "Amaka knows all about you and he agrees. We can be a family in America." Ilia's eyes filled with tears of joy. "Really? You want me to come?" "Of course I do. You're my daughter in every way." However, Ilia's parents warned Nne to not live with their daughter as they wanted her back. Nne also heard from the gateman that Ilia's mother was sick. Ilia's father and her brother suddenly started sending apology messages, asking Ilia to forgive them and return. But Ilia called her family herself, telling them she wants nothing to do with them and would rather go with Nne. Despite threats and more pleading letters, Ilia stood firm in her decision. After Nne married Amaka, a month later, they all relocated to America. The loneliness, emptiness, and sadness that had once consumed her life were replaced by purpose, love, and joy. She lived happily ever after with Nne, Amaka, and their 2 children. As they sat around the dinner table, laughing and sharing stories, Ilia realized that she had found what she had always watched through her window, a real family.